Thank you for joining us on HealingUS Podcast. Today we are joined by Michael Alago. Michael is a best-selling author, photographer, and music genius. He discovered the likes of Metallica back in the 80s and really transformed heavy metal and rock and roll in New York City and beyond. He's worked on top producing albums from Nina Simone, Cindy Lauper, White Zombie, among others.
Sure.
And Michael's personal journey is what brings him here today. He is a survivor of AIDS and a longtime advocate for addiction and mental health. So thank you so much, Michael, for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me today.
What an incredible story.
It's a story, all right. Yes, it's the story of survival. And, I'm grateful that I wake up every single morning,
That's beautiful. Absolutely. So, I want to touch a little bit about your childhood and growing up in the city in Brooklyn and the community that you grew up in, and
Sure.
how that influenced, your journey to music and where that took you. So talk to us a little bit about young Michael.
Young Michael. I grew up in Brooklyn, Borough Park, Bay Ridge area, Hispanic family, just me, my mom, and my sister Cheryl. We lived under the elevated train, so I could fall asleep to any noise whatsoever.
This explains why you love heavy metal.
Correct. And it was a Hasidic neighborhood. I don't know how a Hispanic family like ourselves found ourselves in this neighborhood, but we did. When I talk about music or being a youngster, in my memoir that I wrote, I always say that I came out of the womb loving music. I always loved music. As a young person, I would listen to my transistor radio, and I'd listen to 77 WABC. Because back in the day, in the 70s, radio was not formatted the way it is today. You hear the same thing on Top 40 all the time. So back then, I would hear everything from, Aretha Franklin and Archie Bell and the Durrells to Todd Rundgren and Grand Funk Railroad and Alice Cooper. And AM radio was really, AM radio kind of informed me of my listening because there was such a wide variety of types of artists that were being played.
Yeah.
I knew at some point I wanted to be in the music business, but I didn't play anything. So I just didn't know how that was going to happen. But also, back in the day on television, there were these great TV shows, Don Kirshner's Rock Concert.
You just loved it all, ate it all up.
Ate everything up. Dick Clark's American Bandstand.
Of course.
Don Cornelius's Soul Train. So that also informed me of my wide variety of listening. And if you want to just move forward fast, I was going to college in 1980 at School of Visual Arts, and I worked in a pharmacy in the East Village. And one day I was taking lunch, and I walked down East 11th Street. I saw a beautiful Art Deco building, and I thought, oh, wow, this is really cool, this building. And there was just a little 8x10 white piece of paper stuck to the door, and it said, video club opening, resumes wanted. And I thought, well, I'm going in this club. I don't care.
Yeah.
So I walked in, and it was really just the Ritz, it's called. Okay. Now it's called Webster Hall. But it was, it's a gorgeous, Art Deco building. Mm-hmm. So I went in, I was looking around, and there was a man in the balcony, and I likened him to the Wizard of Oz because he looked at me and he said, "Kid, what do you want?" And I was like, "I want a job." And he said, "Do you have a resume?" And I was like, a resume? No, I do not have a resume. He laughed in my face, and he said, "Come upstairs." Little did I know I was speaking to a man named Jerry Brandt, who opened the Electric Circus nightclub in the 60s. He discovered Carly Simon, the Voices of East Harlem. He worked back in the day in the William Morris Agency with Muhammad Ali and Sam Cooke. He was one of the first agents to bring the Rolling Stones to the United States. Wow. So I was glad that I didn't know any of that about him because I was 19 years old and I would have been a wreck. So he wanted to talk to me about the Great American Songbook and about music that was happening present day, 1980 in New York City. But also in 1980, it was the advent of the beginning of MTV, when it was still all music and all music videos. So he said, "I like you. I'm going to give you a job. You're going to get my lunch. You're going to open my mail, and you're going to answer my phone calls. And I thought, oh my God, I'm in the music business. And that really, you know.
Yeah, that's a big job.
It's the beginning.
Yeah.
And I was like a sponge. I listened to everything Jerry spoke about when he spoke to booking agents and how to book a room that held about 1,500 seats. And I did that for 3 years. And it was such a learning experience. And, you know, Jerry, I always say this to this day, even though Jerry passed away about a year ago, he's 82 from COVID, and
I'm sorry.
oh, a drag. Anyway, so I did that for 3 years. And then I just knew somewhere in my head, I just knew that there was more out there. I was very good friends with somebody named Mitchell Krasnow, and he said, Michael, you know, my dad is leaving Warner Brothers, and he's going to re-up Elektra Records, because it was in, as they say, the crapper, excuse me. So I had an interview with Bob Krasnow, who was then going to be the CEO of Elektra Records. And I had that same conversation with him, except that, you know, art was included in that conversation because he loved contemporary art. I loved contemporary art. And he said, I'll call you in 2 weeks. And so I got that phone call from Bob, and he said, I'm going to hire you. You're going to be in the A&R department. And I said, thank you. I hung up the phone. I think I got teary-eyed. And then I called a friend in the music business, and I said, what's A&R? They also laughed in my face. A&R, for people who don't know, is artist and repertoire. It's the most important part of a record company. It's the department that signs and develops artists.
So you walked into a big job.
Yes, at 20, maybe 21 years old.
But isn't that amazing, like, just to be able to open a door to a warehouse because you like the building, and your life takes off from there.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah. It was really a blessing, and I loved, I was active in music for about 25 years. And it was a blessing, and it was everything I wanted to do, and it kind of all worked out how I wanted it to.
Which a lot of people can't say.
Correct.
Their dream career, right?
Right.
But obviously with that lifestyle comes late nights and a lot of parties.
Big time.
And, you know, through your struggle with your own addiction, did you find that started, was it evident that it happened before those discoveries, or did it kind of evolve with your job growth?
Well, the drinking definitely evolved with the job because as an A&R executive, I had to be out every night. So I was whining and dining, so to speak, artists, publishers, lawyers.
All of it.
All of it.
Yeah.
Managers. And, you know, I pulled out my corporate card all the time, and I used and abused the corporate card. And, you know, it was fun. It was fun entertaining and drinking and having great laughs with people until it wasn't,
right.
You know?
Until it became a problem.
Oh, it most definitely became a problem, you know? And at some point I felt like I didn't have respect for myself, you know, all that drinking. And on a personal level, you know, I was like a no-show for my mom, for my sister, for my family. And I just thought, oh.
Well, it's so hard. I mean, God, that lifestyle alone is just incredible to maintain because you really do become what's like insomniac. You're up all night, you sleep all day, right? When else you're gonna sleep? So to maintain a really healthy balance alone, let alone mix in mental health and your journey in the LGBTQ community and the survivor of AIDS, which we'll talk about in a second, it's a lot to maintain. It's a lot to.
But, you know, the funny part about that is I always woke up super early, even when I went to bed super late. And I showed up in my office at 10 o'clock in the morning. And there I was listening to unsolicited tapes of artists who are not signed. And I did that for my whole career.
and that's, you know, obviously.
Until I started signing artists.
Right.
And making records.
You have so many notable artists that you've worked with.
Sure.
You know, some household names that people might know, obviously the big ones, if that you would categorize as big in your career, Metallica. You stumbled across them, like how did
Well, it wasn't like a stumble. It was, there was a little independent label called Megaforce Records. And it was run by a man named Johnny Z, who also, unfortunately, since passed away. And we became colleagues fast. And he had this little label, and he put out a couple of records, but they really didn't have the funds to market and promote the artists. And so early on, he made a record with Metallica called Kill 'Em All. He made a record with Anthrax, and he made a record with a power trio called Raven. So I got all of those records, and they were really extraordinary records. They this little label knew what the heck they were doing. But and at that same point in time, Johnny said, I have this band called Raven, and they're going to be huge, and you need to sign them. Hi, okay. So I don't know, I think I gave him $5,000 to do a 5-song demo. The demo was terrific, but I've said this time and time again, but the problem was I heard Metallica's first album, Kill 'Em All, and it blew my mind. I'd never heard anything like it. They were young people combining old school hard rock, heavy metal, British new wave metal, punk rock, thrash, into this like mixture called Metallica. And back in the day also, they were also called Alcoholica for reasons we don't even have to explain. So anyway, I wound up signing them in the summer of 1984. Megaforce was not happy with me, but money talks when you work for corporations. So once everybody got their money,
Everyone was happy.
I started working. And I knew from the first time, I'd seen them maybe 2 or 3 times prior to signing them on the West Coast, in Brooklyn, and in Manhattan. I signed them August, it was James Hetfield's birthday, August 4th, 1984. And, they played at Roseland on West 52nd Street, which doesn't exist anymore. I think everything I'm talking about is either people have died or the venues don't exist anymore. Anyway, it was extraordinary.
They're still iconic, though.
Totally.
They'll live on forever.
That is correct.
They really will.
And as they say, they blew the roof off the place. So when it was over, I went backstage. I was a little tipsy. They were a little tipsy. I was hugging and kissing everyone, and they were looking at me like, who is this person? And Lars, the drummer, said, James, this is Michael Alago from Elektra. And they then looked at me again like, this is the guy we're putting our lives into. And the following day, they were at my office. I ordered Chinese food and beer, gave them every cassette and bit of vinyl on Elektra. And it felt like they never left. And
became family.
Yes, so right
then
there.
You signed them 1984.
Yeah.
During your journey, let's talk about your
Sure.
living this high life, thriving in your career. When, when did you realize, okay, my personal issues might be a problem. I need to focus on following a recovery journey. When did that come into play?
Well, I was having a grand old time until the chairman of our company said, people are talking about you. And I would always, I love photography, and I would always carry around a Polaroid camera with me. And so one night I missed a very important gig, and I fell asleep on the tour bus, and the artist and management were not happy with me. So they took pictures of me, passed out, with signs on me. And of course, I said to the chairman, oh, it's a joke, Bob. And he said, no, management, artists, it's not a joke. You have to go to rehab, or else you could pack up your office and leave at 5 o'clock. Wow. And I was working at Elektra Records, part of Time Warner, a huge corporation. And I was furious because it was around Christmas time. And I thought, I'm not going to rehab for Christmas. Mm-hmm. I got on the plane the next day. I remember it was December 23rd, 1992. I went to Hazelden. And I completed their 30-day program. But I was still a bit arrogant about not wanting to stop drinking. So, because I still had the same job, right. I still had to go out every night. But, I was like,
stubborn.
Totally stubborn and arrogant. So I get back in the new year, which was 93, to Elektra. And I was furious because I think I did want to still drink. I still want to party because, like I said, going out every night, that's what I did.
It was your lifestyle.
It was the lifestyle.
It's really hard to switch.
So this is not really the good part, but I did get sober, and I stayed what they called a dry drunk. I didn't go to meetings. I didn't do anything anyone said that I should do to help me spiritually, personally. So from... for the next 8 years, from 32 to 40, I was dry.
Now, and for the audience to understand that, you're sober.
I'm sober.
You're not necessarily happy. You're kind of angry, right?
I'm angry. I don't do anything that
Fun.
really, all it could have taken was going to a 12-step meeting to begin that real recovery journey. But I wasn't having it. Right. I was bratty. So at 40 years old, somebody asked me if I wanted to drink. I was out one evening, as always, and I started drinking. And then I started drinking again from 40 to 47. Those were the worst years of my life. Wow. At some point, I knew I had acquired HIV. At some point, never mind acquiring HIV, I had full-blown AIDS, and I was wasting away. I had what they call wasting syndrome. I couldn't eat. I couldn't function. I thank God I had an incredible primary care physician. And she would come to she was a great big gal who would visit my home at like 5 o'clock every morning before she went to the AIDS ward at St. Vincent Hospital. And that was a blessing. Doctors don't do that when they have, especially in the thick of it all. But she would come to my home every morning. And because I had great insurance with Time Warner, she made sure I was very well taken care of. So I was, on my sofa for about a year, and then I was starting to feel better. There was a medicine that came into existence that I started taking. But back then, there were tons of medicines that you wound up having to take.
It's essentially almost, first of all, it's incredible that you survived to tell the tale.
Over 30 years.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Over 30 years. And it is essentially like going through a chemotherapy process. Sure. Right? It's debilitating to your body. You're exhausted. And then throw in the use of alcohol coming back in your
Well, prior to getting sober, during those years from 40 to 47, there was an HIV med available, and I was taking it with vodka. Nobody recommended I take meds with vodka. Everyone, my close friends and my doctor were furious with me. But anyway, so here we are at 47 years of age, and I'm sick and tired of myself. And I thought, I can't do this anymore. And one morning, October 21st, 2007, I woke up on my sofa fully dressed, and I thought, I can't do this anymore. Everything hurt. My liver hurt. My heart hurt.
Your spirit.
Totally. My brain, everything was hurting spiritually, which there was no spirituality to speak of then. Right. But I knew, living in Chelsea next to the West Village, I knew there were meetings to go to. So I went to an AA meeting. And I got there that afternoon at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I sat next to an older gentleman who had been sober already 25 years. And he said, you don't have to do this anymore. Oh, that brought tears to my eyes. Those couple of words, you don't have to do this anymore. It sunk in. Yeah. And I never left. So I go to AA every day.
Same meeting?
Most of the time now, 7 days a week. But, I have a program and I have a plan. When I wake up in the morning and my 2 feet touch the ground, I say thank you. I say thank you, God, for waking me up. Thank you for waking me up sober. Thank you for the renewed relationship with my sister Cheryl since Mom passed away. And that thank you for the roof over my head. That thank you list goes on forever.
And that gratitude is an important part of your recovery.
All of the thank you list is gratitude. Yeah. And then I make my tea and have my oatmeal, and then I get to my 9 o'clock meeting. So in recent years, because of COVID, I go on a Zoom meeting every day, 7 days a week. Wow. And it's a blessing that in March of 2020, once COVID hit, already there was Zoom in place already. So, that's a blessing. And, when people say, you really go to 17, you really go to 7 meetings a week. And I said, yes, I've been sober 16 years now. And I don't argue with myself about that. It's a blessing that A, I'm alive, and B, that that I get to go to these meetings, Yeah. So I don't argue with myself. I just get there. And it's 1 hour a day. in the morning to set my head straight. And, you know,
people do so much. They think of that as like, wow, that's a lot of time to dedicate. But it's like, it's your foundation of who you are.
correct.
And I think general society, because it's so hard to find time for ourselves in the daily grind, right? I think they almost idolize it when they're questioning it. There's wow, he can do that. Why am I not giving myself an hour for the gym?
Well, I make my 12-step program. It's the priority.
It's your priority.
And that's given me a new life. And I really do have an incredible life. So many things have happened in sobriety. A young film director made a film about me called
I saw that.
Who the F is that guy? The Fabulous Journey of Michael Alago. And we're on 5 platforms right now that I never thought we would even be on. It's like the little train that could. We were on Netflix for a while, and then a new distributor came along, and he said, well, do you want to be on these 5 new platforms? And I'm like, you darn tootin', I want to be on those platforms.
Yeah. Awesome.
And then I wrote a memoir called...
And you're working on a book as well?
Well, I have a memoir out called I Am Michael Alago, Breathing Music, Signing Metallica, Beating Death. And I'm a person who doesn't know how to not be busy. Is that a double negative? I'm not sure. Anyway.
I think I fall into that category as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I'm always busy.
Yeah.
And I'm currently working on another book project. It's a book of Polaroids of men that I took in the 1990s. So I'm always doing something. I'm always going out. I still go out to see young unsigned artists. But, you know, having that 16 years under my belt and being dead serious about this.
Yeah.
And very confident. I don't have any worries about going backwards.
Do you ever feel like surviving your illness and surviving AIDS and finding recovery on the other side? Do you ever feel like there's a reason I'm supposed to be here? Was that kind of a
Sure.
idea?
You know, when I got full blown and very ill, I'm thinking like right now, that's over 30 years ago.
Yeah.
When all the gentlemen and some gals that I know who are in the music business, you know, they really all passed away. So, you know, I was brought up Catholic, and my mom would light candles to St. Jude for me every single day. So I have to like feel like all those blessings that my mom gave me kind of helped.
Yeah.
And I know, what was the question again?
Like that, all that survival.
Oh, survival. Why am I here? I don't know. I guess I'm supposed to. I'm here to help work with artists. I'm here to work with other people and help them with their sobriety. Excuse me. And that's a lot.
Yeah,
you know?
it is a lot. And, you know,
Those 2 things are full-time jobs.
oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely. Are you a sponsor? Do you sponsor individuals?
2 right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But, you know, when people want to call me from the program and in our 9:00 meetings, I always welcome the phone calls because, you know, that happened to me. You know, I was given that grace and people helped me. So I give back whenever I can.
Yeah. What
It's
is
a blessing, and it's
I feel like your
great.
story has so many different inspirations. You know, for anybody listening that's like, I want to be in music or I want to do this. Or, you know, what is one thing you hope people listening to you speak and reading your book walk away from?
Oh, boy.
You could think for a second, too. I'll edit it out.
Well, that I'm a good person and I'm a truthful person. I've been a hard worker my whole entire life. And I don't know. I guess that's it.
That's
a lot.
That's a lot. Again, another full-time job now.
Sure.
Authenticity is just one of the most important characteristics I think you can have. And obviously that showed the first day you walked through what is now Webster Hall, you know, because who else would get that job just out of the blue like that?
I have no idea, but I landed it. And again, it was a blessing and a little bit of a miracle thrown in there. And for the next 25 years after that, I worked for, major corporations, record companies. And it was incredible. And I stopped officially in 2005 because, I felt for a moment I was getting sick again. Although I didn't wind up getting sick, but I thought, people were not buying records like they used to anymore. Mm-hmm. And all the artists were on Spotify and all these other.
It's different. It's changed.
It's totally changed, you know?
That brings me, I guess, to, you really at the time rediscovered, or I guess not rediscovered, but discovered and brought heavy metal and rock and roll to the forefront of the New York scene.
Sure. Well, heavy metal had existed for a long time, whether it was abroad in London or Germany or wherever, and in the United States. Because back then we were all listening to like Ozzy Osbourne and Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and a couple of famous British bands. What was the question?
My question was,
I told you I was a bit of a scatterbrain.
No, that's all good. What do you hope your lasting legacy in music is?
That I had two good ears that signed great, not good, but great artists, and that hopefully those artists have a legacy. When people say to me, wow, when did you sign Metallica? I said 40 years ago. 40 years of an artist constantly selling records and developing over the years, that right now, I just saw them last summer, 2023, at MetLife Stadium. And that place holds 80,000 seats, and they sold it out for 2 nights. So that's extraordinary, And, I also wound up working with Rob Zombie from the group White Zombie. I had a little niche at Elektra, and that mostly was signing heavy metal artists, whether it was Metal Church, Flotsam and Jetsam, Metallica. I executive produced a group called Dokken, and I loved it. The harder, the better. But then on the other end of the spectrum, at Elektra, I worked on Tracy Chapman's first album, that had Fast Car. And, talking about Fast Car now, Luke Combs, 35 years later.
That was amazing at the Grammys when they did that.
Recorded.
I feel like nobody that's younger really recognizes Tracy.
Correct.
Chapman. She's amazing.
But it was incredible that she came on stage.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen Tracy for a long time, so I jumped up off my sofa. I was a bit teary-eyed, and I just stood in front of the television, and I was like, oh, my God, they're just both grateful artists.
Absolutely.
So I wound up getting to work with a whole bunch of people, from Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols to Tracy Chapman and the heavy metal artists that I mentioned. So I just like to, I guess, be known that as an A&R executive, I signed great artists. I was honest about the signings, and that I was always just helpful to people.
That's a beautiful thing. Did you find when you were in your years of recovery before and after your AIDS journey, did you find that the industry, a lot of people fear getting sober and then having to continue their work, or they have to give up their dreams because they can't drink anymore, so how are they going to work in the music industry? Did you find the industry was actually very welcoming and supportive, or what was your experience with that?
Supportive when? What part of?
When did you have a hard time? Was it your struggle coming back, or was the industry pushing you to,
Sure. Well, like I said, when I was very ill, I was home for a year or two. But when I started taking medication, I was feeling a lot better. So it's the 90s, and I think people still don't know. Can I hug Michael? Can I shake his hand?
Still?
Well, in the 90s, I still think the 90s was 20 years ago. The 90s was 30 years ago.
Right.
But, I'm a survivor, and once I felt better, I went right back to work at Elektra, working with some of the same artists again, and
jumped right back in. And I mean, you've really overcome 2 forms of recovery, right?
Sure.
From that stigma with AIDS, but also coming back into the industry, being sober, and having, you're offered drinks and other substances.
Well, but also by that time, let's just say the 2000s, it was a little different because there were a lot of people in the music business who were in recovery by that time. In the 80s and 90s, it was like anything goes.
Yeah.
But by the time 2000 came around, people were getting into recovery.
Well, people, I think, too, in the industry wanted it after the 27 Club and everybody that had been
sure.
lost. It's like at some point that had to switch.
Well, it had to, either that or you die, and that's no exaggeration, you know. I could have died twice, but, you know, there was just something that I always held on to, and whether it's, you know, mom's prayers or my own prayers, I survived. And, you know, once I got back into the music business again, let's just say around in the 2000s, people were all getting sober. It was like the thing, you know, everybody was going. Unfortunately, it's a good thing. Okay, sure. Yeah, and then I just worked until 2005, and then I kind of retired. But in retiring, I still work with young artists, you know, because I just love music so much that I don't know I wouldn't know how to stop working with new artists. It's just a
part of your soul.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, you know, I want to thank you so much for coming on our show, and your story is remarkable. And I think there's so many different lessons and forms of recovery in your life. Is there anything else you want the readers to lead with today? Somebody that might just be starting their journey or have a dream to be in music. Is there anything you want to leave them with, words of wisdom?
Well, if we're talking about young people wanting to get into some kind of business, be knowledgeable about what you're getting into, learn whatever the craft is, be truthful and honest just in your life. Pay attention to your life. Don't drink and drugs. I sound like somebody's father now, but that's okay. That's okay. Because, you know, all of that stuff after a while, it's just you go down this rabbit hole. And like I said, you either recover or you die. And, you know, that's really no exaggeration because, you know, we have all seen many friends, family members, and artists die from the disease. So tell the truth.
Tell the truth. Be
have
authentic.
Fun. Be authentic.
And stay away from drugs and alcohol.
Correct.
Spoken for Michael Alago. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Joining us. It's such a pleasure having you.
Oh, good. Well, I'm happy to be here.
And good luck with your book. It's coming out soon. And where can everybody go find it? You have a website?
I do have a website, but it's mostly photography. It's michaelalago.com. But I'm on social media every day under my full name, Michael Anthony Alago on Instagram and on Facebook. My photography book I'm still working on, but the book everyone can get that tells my whole entire story is my memoir, and you can get signed copies from me if you write to me on social media, or if you don't want a signed copy, you could go to Amazon and get the book. It's a biography, and it's called I Am Michael Alago, Breathing Music, Signing Metallica, Beating Death. Everything I work on has these extended titles, but that's okay.
Hey, there's a lot to encompass, right?
Correct.
Quick title doesn't do it.
Sure.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. I look forward to getting your book.
Oh, good. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.